The ends of palm fronds. Do you see them on the tree trunk? Something unusual this time. With fronds like these, who needs canvases?
I am Mrs. Ruby Merlot. As a cultural, colorful pouring icon, I dress for every pour as one would naturally dress for dinner. I channel my muse with a quick vocal exercise, then ask my canvas what it wants to be. And now that you know my story, shall we pour?
Gracious viewers, Mrs. Ruby Merlot here again. First asking my fronds what they want to be, then getting right down to the first of the 2 frond pours in this video. As you can see, I've taped off both ends of each frond as I want a hint of that natural look. I can't even tell you all the colors I'm using in these pours as they are leftovers from several other paintings. But because the fronds are not flat on the top, I keep the paints on the thick side so they will be less likely to run off. Each color other than white contains a tad of silicone. In both pours, I have chosen to use a split cup I fashioned myself from a delicate flamingo old-fashioned glass and a piece of sturdy plastic cut to fit as a divider. The split cup allows me to mix it up a bit, alternating colors not only vertically, but from side to side as well. Oh, and look at the initial results. These 2 in the first batch are so different, though the paint poured upon them was all from the same cup. Although I am not showing all of it, I use my torch to encourage cells and pop air bubbles, and I make sure to scrape dripping paint off the edges with my palette knife. As you can see, I use the same split cup technique on the second batch. What wild colors and patterns are popping out! But there's the rub. The curve of these fronds did indeed cause the paint to stretch and lose most all those glorious cells. What inspired me to paint on fronds, you ask? Well, poor Mr. Merlot gathers so many of them after our Florida storms. He really has quite a collection. One day, while preparing to paint, I realized I was completely devoid of canvases. Truly, there was not one to be had, and the stores were all closed. On the verge of a very dramatic fainting spell, I barely heard Mr. Merlot when he suggested fronds. "What's that you say?" I asked weakly. "Fronds," he said. "Why not pour on fronds?" "Why would I ever want to pour on fronds?" I asked, aghast, naturally assuming he meant our German gardener. He might drown or at least refuse to clip our shrubbery. "Not fronds, fronds," said Winston in exasperation and a little too loudly. "Palm fronds." "Oh, how lovely!" I exclaimed. "I shall pour them at once." And look at these finished fronds now. I sprayed both sides of each with several coats of high-gloss Rust-Oleum Specialty Clear Triple Thick Glaze. It protects them and brings out the colors. Then I strung 5 of them to create this wall hanging. Now that I've begun my frond frenzy, I'm not about to stop. I am so enamored of my fronds, no, not the gardener, that I intend to give all my friends fronds. I can give them for housewarmings, special anniversaries, and Arbor Day. Perhaps I'll give some fronds to Fronds. Oh, how very droll. I hope you've enjoyed this little pour. Be sure to check out my other videos. And as I must ask of you, please consider subscribing to my channel. It would so raise Mr. Merlot's spirits now that I have him canvassing the entire neighborhood for my fronds. Palm fronds.